enjoy long-awaited reading and discussion sessions on poet laureates. They are Anne Michaels, A.F. Moritz, and George Elliott Clarke. Audience, this session will be moderated by renowned translator Sreyoshi Bose. Sreyoshi studied literature and language from the prestigious Jadavpur University in Kolkata and University of Windsor in Canada. She has published 3 translations from Bengali to English. May I request Sreyoshi Bose to come over the stage with the poet laureates.
Good evening, friends. So welcome to a very special segment of tonight's literary festivities, and are with 3 esteemed poet laureates of Clarke. I know that we've all been looking forward to having them here with us as part of the Canadian Bengali Literary Festival and to hearing from them. So let me begin by inviting to stage Anne Michaels, who will be in conversation with Sujit Kusum Paul. Anne Michaels was the poet laureate of Toronto from 2015 to 2019. She is a poet and novelist whose work has been translated and published worldwide. And among the numerous awards and honors bestowed on her are the prestigious Orange Prize, the Guardian Fiction Prize, the Lannan Award for Fiction, and the Commonwealth Poetry Prize for the Emeritus. She also won a 2019 Vine Award for Infinite Gradation, her first volume of non-fiction. Sujit Kusum Paul is a prominent member of the Bengali Canadian community in Toronto, who has been an editor of literary magazines both in Bangladesh and here in Canada. He has been highly commended for his research and translations of Yeats, Shelley, and Margaret Atwood, and he has enriched the Bengali community with his talks on Canadian literature, particularly on Atwood, that have been televised and published. His recent work includes a book on imagery in the poems of Yeats. We welcome you both.
Good afternoon, audience. We started the program in 1 minute silence and salute to the people who sacrifice or sacrificing their lives back home. So silence is the issue. You know what is silence according to Anne Michaels? When a stone is heavy, you cannot move it. Only silence can move it, can carry it to or to its destination. So I am here to introduce Anne Michaels. She is the faculty of English department, University of Toronto. She was the poet laureate in 2015. Interestingly, George Elliott Clarke, he handed over the power and Anne Michaels took over the power. So we have both of them here. We can applaud them for being with us. Now, how to introduce Anne Michaels? It is simply impossible for me to introduce a star in the sky in a planet like this. So, I will take only a few minutes, whatever I can, I will try. Would you believe if I say she is a beautician? You may or may not. Yes, she is the beautician in the parlor of language. In her beauty parlor, she is like a lyrical engineer who can assemble and reassemble the words after words after words. To carry the beauty from the tree of the past, to plant in the soil of the planet, to harvest the love, the loss, the joy, and the sorrows. In her parlor, she waits for some people who left forever. She waits for some people who never left her. To her, poetry is like something that is the content from a stranger. So if you visit her beauty parlor, you will see there one envelope. This envelope is from an unknown person. Open it, read out, you see what is poetry. This is not my assumption or something, what I learned from her books. And she has been related with some history in the history of Canadian literature. She is the only person, she is the only writer whose debut novel earned her national and international acclaim. The first one, Fugitive Pieces, it earned more than dozens of awards and prizes and honor. And this book has become or has been elected by British Broadcasting Corporation, we know as BBC, as one of the 100 best novels in the last 300 years. She created history, and Royal Society of Literature, London, has elected her as an international writer. And this honor is the first after N. Larson. So we have two international writers in Canada elected by the Royal Society of Literature. We have one here. We can applaud her. In fact, what did she do? So I should say to you, suppose this book, Fugitive Pieces, she says, pain and trauma, this is two different things. In Bengali, Betha এবং Vedana. You can kill your pain by the painkiller, but you cannot kill trauma. Trauma flows from generation to generation, and pain only subsides. Now, I would request our poet laureate, ex-poet laureate, and Michael to say some of our heartiest words for our audience. And Michael.
Thank you very much for that very beautiful and generous introduction. I'm very, very grateful. And I'm very grateful and honored to be here today on a day that is marked with sorrow and silence. And knowing how important it is for us to gather, to be together. And every time we gather in this way, it is an act of hope. Always an act of hope. And it is a great pleasure to see some old friends here today and new friends. And a very special thank you to Subrat. It was one of the great joys of my time as Poet Laureate to work with him and to begin to feel the power of your community. I talked with him about this a great deal, and I long for this day to happen when your literature can be read in English by everyone here in this country. So I hope the day will come when translations, bilingual editions will be flowing into the lives of readers here. One of the things that that gave me most joy was being able to connect Subrat and your community to the International Festival of Authors here. And those events reach so many readers, so many people. It was very important and a great moment to be able to see your work represented at the Toronto International Festival of Authors. So I'm just going to read one poem, and perhaps it's as close to silence as I can speak on this day. That is as close to an act of silence as I can give you today. And again, my deepest thanks for having me here today. To write, because the dead can read. Because she thought everyone came home to find their family taken. Because the one closest to her cannot speak. Because he drew love into him from each body he entered. Because they are keeping her from him. Because the last time they met, he misunderstood her, absolutely. Because a finger can hold a place in a book. Because a book rests in a lap. Because words are secrets passed one to another on a train, the same train where letters were crammed between slats to be found by strangers. Because they recognize each other over huge distances. Because a true word everywhere is samizdat. Because everything political is personal and not the other way around. Because forgiveness is not about the past, but the future, and needs another word. Because the true witness of your soul is sometimes one you've scorned. Because it is possible to be married to someone who died many years before we were born. Because he painted the intimate objects of their life together, not from observation, but from memory. Though surrounded by the teacups, the flowers, the garden, he retreated to his small room to paint, each object transformed by love. Because words are mirrors that set fire to paper. Because every day she risked her life for him. Because he remembered this too late. Because he was mistaken. Because he was certain. Because certainty and doubt consume each other like dogs in a parable. Because of a Sunday morning in London. Because of a cemetery in Wales. Because of a mountain and a river. Because he imagined himself an orphan. Because an infant cannot carry herself. Because of drawings on fax paper. because she sends her SMS with broken thumbs and an empty battery. Because to be heard, we do not need a pencil, and we do not even need a tongue, and we do not even need a body. Because the one who holds the pen, even if it's too dark to see the page, and even if the ink is his own blood, is free. Because an action can never be erased by a word. Because she set down what we cannot bear to remember. Because we cannot take back what we sang. Because the dead can read.
Some of you missed some words because of, I think, some mechanical errors of the sound system. Anyway, she spoke a lot about the role of silence, and our time is limited. So we had a plan to reach her with some queries. So time is no more. Now I can give you another information about Anne Michaels. She is a classical pianist, and she studied in Royal Conservatory of Music, Toronto. Lot of things we can spend whole night with her, but we have very small spare of time. So I can do one thing. One of our poems. The poem is rain makes its own night. Badal name Rajani. This poem was transformed to music with the support from Canada Council of Arts. So I have the music with me now. I will play it just for 30 seconds or 1 minute, whatever. I was stopping it here because I think sound service is not supporting the audience. I can read something in their faces. Sorry. So, this is what about Anne Michaels. We are missing her, we will miss her because we could not reach her with a lot of queries because of the time limit. Thank you very much for your kind hearing and listening or patience. Thank you very much.
That was so enriching, such an enriching experience to hear this conversation and also the poem. And as you said, Mr. Paul, like the more we interact, of course, the more we want that's there. And we apologize for the problem with the sound. So, but yes, time is limited. So may I now please request Momo Kazi to accompany Albert Frank Moritz to stage, please. And if we can have a big round of applause for them, please. I invite you to use this microphone if this works better. And Momo Kazi is a Toronto-based writer belonging to the late millennium generation who has been acclaimed for her poetry translations, particularly those of Albert Moritz. She is an enthusiastic reader who draws inspiration for her writing from current social issues, and her work is deeply rooted in the observations of daily life. Through her writing, she aspires to contribute towards the realization of a society characterized by equity and inclusion. Welcome you both, and you are most welcome to use this microphone if this works better.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Momo.
Thank you so much, Sreyoshi. You said such kind words. And Mr. Moritz, I'm going to make you talk a little more.
Uh-oh.
So, first, it is my responsibility to introduce Mr. F. Moritz. And I'm not going to repeat something that you can just Google about him because he is famous. I'm just going to say how he touched my life. So it was during the COVID. I never had any idea of translating any literary work, and I opened Toronto Star one day, and I found this poetry, The Thoughts in the Time of Plagues, and I was depressed and alone that time, and that poetry actually touched me so much that I was thinking that my friends who is not very well in English, they should know about these thoughts that he conveyed in that poetry. And I did this translation, and it was well received. That gave me the inspiration, and of course Mr. Subrat Kumar, he inspired me, and I requested Mr. Moritz if I may translate his works, and he did. So, to Mr. Moritz, I have a question. I see you in our Bengali different kind of literary programs from, I think, 2018. That was the first time I saw you in one of the programs. How do you see us as Bengalis in the literary world, and how do you think about our efforts in a foreign land which is in Canada for us? How do you think that?
I think that the Bengali community was a revelation to me. Of course, I know there are various language communities, and I've run into the poetry of quite a few of them without knowing in advance that it was there. And so the Bengali experience for me was similar to that, and a very great one because it's been prolonged. I think, Momo, I actually participated in something at Subrat's invitation even earlier than 2018, something at the Albert Campbell Library, and I enjoyed that very much, and I got to read some of my poetry and talk with some of the Bengali writers and give a little talk, including talking about Michael Madhusudan Dutt, who's been mentioned here earlier today, and even reading a very small part, the Invocation to the Muse, from the beginning of his English written Bengali version of the Ramayana.
I remember, I was amazed when you actually recited in Bengali. He actually memorized those lines. He came to our program and he was speaking, reciting that in Bengali. That actually got me really surprised, and we were very impressed.
And so, Michael Dutt was put his name that way. He was first, he wanted to move to the Imperial Center. He went to London. He wrote in English. He was a mid-Victorian poet. The Victorians were my graduate study. I love the Victorian poets. So he was sort of right up my alley. I can't say that he was a central figure for my studies, but I knew about him, of course. So that was a little convergence that we had. And then, becoming poet laureate, I got invitations from Subrat and Sujit and others, and was able to attend for instance, event somewhat like this one, with tables at the Canadian Legion Hall,
yes.
Closer.
$9, yes.
Yes, and I enjoyed that very much. My memory fails me as to names, but I met some of the same people today, and I really, really enjoyed that very much. I piggybacked on Anne's introduction of the Bengali literary community to the Toronto International Festival of Authors, and participated in that a little bit. So it's been now today, it's been an evolving thing, which I hope now that I've got a little more time on my hands to be able to get into a bit more deeply. I made the joke today that you showed me my name written in Bengali. So that's how I know that those symbols are my name written in Bengali. So I decided, okay, I'm going to look up some Bengali and learn some Bengali. So this is how far I got. I know why the first character is the way you would write or try to write A. And I know why the second character, which looks almost identical, is the way you would try to write F, or actually, well, F, sort of, right? Because
we call it fall. So
Yeah, and you use the vowel, right, and you put a little doodad on it that makes it have the consonant.
it is very similar.
Right, so that's how far I've gotten in learning Bengali.
So it's a really good news for us Bengalis because Moritz is going to be writing in Bengali very soon.
Yes.
That's what we can hope. Thank you so much. So now I want to request Mr. Moritz if you can recite one of your poems.
Okay, Momo and I said we would recite in English and then in Bengali the poem Cleanliness. So I'm going to get it on my cell phone here. Actually, here I have it already. I do have it, so it will come up. So I will say this is a poem that I've also recited other times in English, and along with translators putting it in other languages and in other countries. And it made me realize how much our poetry is culturally limited. We know that poems, like anything human, are culturally limited. Maybe they're less than almost anything, but still a lot, maybe still totally, they're culturally limited. So we say if we're referring to Apollo or something, we say, well, how is a person from another, mythology going to know what the heck that means? So that's a, crude example of cultural limitation. And I realized, reading this to certain social groups in certain countries, how deep that goes. Not this poem is premised on a house that has 2 or more stories with stairs in it and an attic, and not everybody has an experience of a dwelling with 2 or more floors in it and an attic. So with that said, I will start reading this poem. That's sort of like a more basic and important range of allusions than Apollo. Right? Right. So this is called Cleanliness. Dead flies on the windowsills, the corpses now of more than one summer, weightless but unstirred, on the 3rd story at the top of the stairs. Impossible for her to climb them now. Too much tiredness. But she will still go there again someday, she promises. We'll rest the bucket and sponge on every step and breathe, waiting for the water to stop sloshing in the pail and her heart to stop beating. Even if every step's an hour, a threat of death, the attic will be clean again. We watch. We notice the streaked tableware, the dust, chipped things, and flecks of old food lying here on this 1st floor, its clearly dirty windows beyond the ladder of her eyes, while in her words, in her thought, only the lament goes on for the space above, that it's filling up with webs, that its contents are waiting to be given or thrown away. And how much we'd give now for the oppressive cleanliness that once reached every day angrily into the least and darkest corners of our childhood to show us its vigor again, that fearful enemy we won our best days in opposing.
Thank you so much. I'm now going to recite the Bengali version of the same poem. I'm not a poetry reciter, please forgive me if it doesn't sound very good. But here we go. কবিতাটির নাম হচ্ছে পরিচ্ছন্নতা। জানালার কাঁচে মৃত মাছি, এখন লাশ। একাধিক বৃষ ধরে ওজনহীন কিন্তু অস্থির। সিঁড়ির উপরের 3য় তলায়। তার পক্ষে এখন সেগুলোতে আরোহণ করা অসম্ভব। খুব বেশি ক্লান্তি, কিন্তু তিনি আবারও কোনো একদিন সেখানে যাবেন, সে প্রতিজ্ঞাবদ্ধ। তিনি প্রতিটি পদক্ষেপে বালতি এবং স্পঞ্জটি নামিয়ে রাখেন এবং শ্বাস নেন, জল থামার জন্য অপেক্ষা করেন। বালতিতে জলের শব্দ এবং তার হৃদয় প্রহার বন্ধ করার উপক্রম। যদি প্রতি পদক্ষেপে 1 ঘন্টাও লাগে, তবুও মৃত্যুর হুমকি। চিলেকোঠা আবার পরিষ্কার হবে। আমরা দেখি আমরা ছিদ্রযুক্ত টেবিল সজ্জা এবং ধুলো, একটু ভাঙা জিনিস এবং পুরনো খাবারের টুকরো এখানে পড়ে আছে। এই প্রথম তলায় এর স্পষ্টভাবে প্রকাশিত নোংরা জানালা, তার চোখের আঙিনা পেরিয়ে তার কথায়, তার ভাবনায় শুধু বিলাপ চলে উপরের স্থানের জন্য, যা জাল দিয়ে পূর্ণ করছে সারাক্ষণ। এর বিষয়বস্তু আমাদের অতীত দেওয়ার জন্য অপেক্ষা করছে বা ফেলে দেওয়া হবে, এবং আমরা কখন কত দিতে চাই নিবিড় পরিচ্ছন্নতার জন্য, যা একবার প্রতিদিন ছিল রাগ করে অন্তত পক্ষে। এবং আমাদের শৈশবের অন্ধকার কোন আগ্রহ আমাদের আবার তার শক্তি দেখাতে, যে ভয়ঙ্কর শত্রুকে বিরোধিতা করে আমরা আমাদের সেরা দিনগুলো জিতেছি। ধন্যবাদ। Thank you, Mr. Moritz, for being with us. Thank you, audience.
You got the essence, for sure. Coming from another translator. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. And now, dear friends, please welcome the 4th Poet Laureate of Toronto, Georgia, Clarke, and writer and presenter, Tasmina on stage. And a big round of applause, please, for both of them. Welcome, sir. Execution poems, as well as the National Magazine Gold Medal for Poetry. He has also won the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Achievement Award in 2004, the Pierre Elliott Fellowship Prize 2005-8, and the Dartmouth Book Award for Fiction 2006. And Tasmina Khan is a behavioral analyst who loves reading and writing short stories and poems, which is a very, very familiar face in Canadian Bengali community here in Toronto. She has a master's degree in behavioral science and also in literature. She writes regularly in local magazines and literary magazines and paper. And she has 2 published books and another one that is used for master's program in university. And welcome to you both, and looking forward to your interview. The mic is all yours, and I would request if both of you could kindly use this mic. I can bring the chairs forward so you could probably sit and
introduce you, a poet, a playwright, a literary critic, or poet laureate.
I like to think that poet encompasses all of the above.
Oh, yeah. But I remember one of your editor, Neil, mentioned that poetry is now a very vulnerable art, and the writers, the publishers, and the readers, and the people who are thinking about it, the number of them are decreasing, and is in very vulnerable state. Do you agree with it?
No. Very
That's
simply.
why you are here.
Yeah, no, I think that poetry, of course, it's not a literary form that sells a lot, or most of us don't have bestsellers of books of poetry. And so on the other hand, I would say that poetry is the literary art form that is most meaningful, that is deepest for everyone, that is the easiest for people to carry with them if they are moving from one place to another, and to memorize and keep with them in their hearts, in their lives. And that's why poetry is therefore very dangerous, because of the fact that with the ability to memorize it, the ability to speak it, anytime, anywhere, means that our words cannot be stopped. Our thoughts cannot be imprisoned. So long as we have the ability to speak, we have the ability to shake. We have the ability to excite. We have the ability to educate and inform. We have the ability to transform. We have the ability to spark revolutions. We have the ability to spark riots. We have the ability to spark gatherings, communions, togetherness, hopefulness. And so I like to think of us as being always the most dangerous citizens.
Yeah, and a very strong will, what do you say?
Absolutely, and the most vital citizens.
Yeah. In one of your interview, I found that you mentioned when you were around 15 and 16 years old, till then, you were not into any form of literary forms. You were more like a sporty person. You used to play in your high school days. Am I
Well, I can't really say that I was a very much of a sporty person at all. But I can say that I wanted to be somebody who was liked by other kids in high school. I shouldn't say kids, students in high school. And so in order to be likable, I thought
You wanted to be at the center of
I did.
attraction
I
and
wanted to-
attention.
Yeah.
Sort of, right?
yeah, I wanted to be at the center of attention, so I thought
Yeah.
I should write songs.
Yeah.
But the problem with that was I can't sing, I don't know any music, I can't play any instruments.
And then you shifted your choice from music to poem.
Yes, in order to
Okay.
become a better songwriter, I thought I should write poetry.
Okay, so can you tell our audience a little bit about the term that you coined, Africadia?
Oh, Africadia. That's a word I invented to talk about the historical Black communities in Eastern Canada, specifically Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, somewhat Prince Edward Island, but especially Nova Scotia, where my roots go back to 1813 on my mother's side, where I still own land that goes back to 1813. It's my land, my anthills, my spruce trees, my pine trees, and so on. And there's nothing on it. But it goes back to my family all those centuries, 2 centuries. So I feel very connected to that landscape. And a lot of us from my background feel the same way, that we are part of the landscape of Nova Scotia and find it very hard to think of ourselves as being separate from it. And so I invented that term in order to give us a sense of identity that was really grounded with the land, and not something that was not separate. So it's very easy to describe us as Black, and we are, and we're proud of that. But at the same time, we are Black Nova Scotians. We are connected to Nova Scotia, and we're not connected to anywhere else.
Everybody must be very proud of you, and we are very proud of you. So this gentleman, he has 17 collections of poetry, 2 novels, 4 works of drama and opera, and might be adding more. He was just sharing with me that he's planning to publish more on colors. So that is very interesting that though this gentleman, he worked his all life, against racism, against discrimination for the colors, and so on, so on. But that's very interesting that when we read his works, a lot of them were titled with the colors. I read his poetry. I read the books that started with the name blues, started with the name black, white, red, and he's planning to write on green, right?
Yeah, green is
Yeah. So why hating colors and embracing colors? How would you explain it?
That's a great question, Ms. Khan. That's a great question, and I will answer very quickly and simply that as someone whose life has been defined so much by color and reaction to color and so on, I can't look at colors in any kind of ordinary way. Every time I see a color, I think about a color, it has psychological importance for me. And of course, in colors like black and white and brown, obviously because of racism and so on, are very important to me. But so are colors like blue and red and gold and blue and mauve and pink. I think that there's a whole constellation of psychological influences that come from colors. And I think that, this is my argument, that all intellectuals of color cannot look at any color as simply being what it is, being what it is for itself. That we relate to colors psychologically because they've been so important in defining our cultures, defining who we are, and defining what we can do, and defining what we cannot do. And you think about it in terms of references to art, like black comedy and film noir, black film, and so on, or other colors, like again the blues, referring to sorrowful music and so on. So because of the psychological importance of colors, I like to think about them as being thematically important for structuring particular books of poetry.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so now going back to another question. So like in your book, Blues and Bleeds, I remember your few lines, like roses got thorns, and words do lie. I've seen love die. So when you mentioned this one, it was long ago written, right? And how would you define love, like then versus now?
Oh my golly, that is such. Here we are in a church, and you're asking me that question about love? God is love, right? The gods are love. What can I say except that as I live my life, and now that I'm a father and I have a daughter who just turned 26, praise God, and I saw her last Sunday in Montreal, where she lives. The longer I live, the more I realize, and it may sound like cliche, but it's not cliche. Love is the most important thing in the world. It is the most important thing in the world. I shared that with my daughter last week. That I said to her, you are wiser than me, you are smarter than me. I cannot share any wisdom with you except that love is the most vital thing in the world. It's the thing that you have to hold on to. The people you love, you gotta love them hard. You gotta love them fiercely. You gotta keep them close to you. Because it's the only thing we have that witnesses against death. Love is our resistance to death. It's what keeps the dead with us. It's what keeps the dead alive with us, is our ability to love them and love all that they represented. So you ask a very simple question. You ask a question that is also extremely profound. And now that I am a senior citizen, I will stand on that by making that argument that yes,
do you
love
think,
is all
sorry,
there is.
do you think as a senior citizen, you love this anywhere lesser than the book when you wrote Motorcyclist? The young guy who was full of love and with multiple beautiful partners.
Yeah. That's another side of it, isn't it? Another side of love.
Yeah.
And of course, it's the whole human experience. It's how we meet and marry and reproduce and start new families and so on, is through attraction to others and so on. And it would be a wonderful thing, possibly a wonderful thing, if love were more disciplined, or some of us were more disciplined in our love. At the same time, love is what actually engenders, no pun intended, everything. And if you believe the accounts of Genesis, then love engendered the creation. Love engendered the stars in the sky and all of the creation. Everything that we love while being alive is ultimately dependent on the creativity that love also represents.
I think all of the lovers present here should put their hands together for this great lover.
Oh my God!
Awesome. Okay, and so
I'm feeling it.
yeah, we're almost end of our conversation. So, the last thing that I would like to say that this great person is a very musical person, because I see a lot of writings involve music, musical instruments, tunes, tones. I remember once you mentioned that the bunch of flower is like music. And again, you compare music with fragrance. And then you said that like also when two lovers were separated and they were again coming to reunite, and one lover is saying the other is like my bones are like the strings of the guitar. So there are music everywhere. It's such a musical person. And another thing I found that in one of your poetry poem you mentioned that Sister Nettie, right? If I'm pronouncing it right, forgive me. So when she was remarking something rude on the fence, and you decided to punish her, but that was not even a hard punishment. That was like stealing her dessert, depriving her from dessert for punishment. So this person is, though he does a lot, he did a lot for the right of equality to be equal, but I see somehow a very soft George Elliott Clarke. Am I right?
I hope so.
But again, I appreciate really for everything you did. The gentleman was serving as Toronto Poet Laureate from 2012 to 2015, and 2016-17 he was Canadian Parliamentary Poet Laureate, and a lot of achievements, a lot of published works, and I also need to mention that more we are getting from him, and the best thing, what I liked is, most is there wasn't a practice to read own poems in the parliament, right? In the houses. This is also this person who started started the trend that now people are reading their poems in the houses, right? I think we should put our hands together for all these writing did for us. Yeah. So if you want to read one of your poems for our
Okay, time to read a poem. But I want to thank you so much for these questions. And this is the book you were referring to,
Yeah,
Blues
that's
and
my
Bliss.
favorite.
Oh, good. Thank you so very, very much. And I'm going to read two very, very quick short poems. One from this book, and it's actually a poem you were referring to. It's actually not even really a poem, it's a song, and it's called Blues for X.
Do you want to sing a few lines?
Oh, I cannot sing, but I can read. I can recite, so here it is. Blues for X is in the voice of a character I call Sela. And so she's singing to her boyfriend X, and she says, "Pretty boy, towel your tears and robe yourself in black. Pretty boy, dry your tears, you know I'm coming back. I'm your lavish lover and I'm slavish in the sack. Call me sweet potato, sweet pea, or sweetie pie. There's sugar on my lips and honey in my thighs. Josephine Baker bakes beans, but I stew pigtails in rye. My bones are guitar strings and blues the chords you strum. My bones are slender flutes and blues the bars you hum. You want to stay my man, serve me whiskey when I come." So that's
Amazing.
one little
Thank
song, and I'm going to finish by reading one poem from this children's book, which is called "Lasso the Wind: Aurelia's Verses and Other Poems." And I wrote this for my daughter when she was much younger, and it's a series of little rhyming poems that are very colorful and so on, thanks to the artist who created the paintings. So I'll just show you the pages for the poem I'm about to read. And the poem is called Self-Composed. Self-Composed, and again I wrote this for my daughter. I saw a field of daisies, and this poem just came to me very easily. It rhymes, by the way, it rhymes, look how careful. It's today that I can see daisies play at being me. Beaming gold, they bend and sway, limber bold and narcic gay, holding out their leaves like hands. They don't shout or make demands. They're quiet, quite, but not shy. Their riot is their beauty. If I seem a weed to some, eyes I dream, and flower I am. If I seem a weed to some eyes, I dream, and flower I am.
Wow, great. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
For giving us your time and being here and present us your awesome speech as well as your beautiful poems.
Thank you so very much, and I appreciate the fact that I was on my best behavior.
Yeah, you did. Thanks.
Well, all I can say is this was just an electrifying session. I'm sure you will agree. I can feel the vibes of love, of motivation. I would like to thank each of you for gracing us with your presence tonight in this Bengali Canadian literary event. And now the stage is all yours, our gracious host, Samina Chowdhury. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sreyoshi. দর্শক, এতক্ষণ আমরা আমাদের তিনজন প্রাক্তন পোয়েট লরিয়েটের কবিতা শুনলাম, তাদের কথা শুনলাম, তাদের চিন্তা ভাবনা সম্পর্কে জানলাম। আমাদের তিনজন হোস্ট তাদেরকে আপনাদের কাছে ইন্ট্রোডিউস করেছে এবং আপনাদের কথা শুনেছি। আমি আশা করছি আপনারা ঋদ্ধ হয়েছেন এবং উপভোগ করেছেন। And we are very grateful to our poet laureates to give us time and to enlighten us with your knowledge and with your poetry. I hope Bengali community will read your poetry more and we will discuss about your poetry more to get the philosophy of life. Thank you so much.